one of the cool things that that Zoom has added, and of course now my mouth is going to go as dry as it's ever been in my entire life. One of the cool things Zoom has added, if you look at your bar of videos, you used to just have a couple of options where you could see one person or you can see a strip. If you hit the grid, now you can see everyone while you're doing while you can still see full screen, which is really nice. We also want to just encourage you guys to use the reaction icons that are in the bottom of your Zoom picture. Give us a thumbs up or a high five when we're rocking your boat. If you're into the beat scene, you can give us little snaps, and we always love that. And we're also going to be popping in the social media tags and stuff into the chat so that you can share the aha moments that are coming through for you. We always love and appreciate that. And we're going to give it a couple of minutes before things really kick off here, because we know that it's just what it takes for people to be able to sign on these days. And then we'll do some housekeeping, and then we're going to rock in. So while we're doing that, instead of shouting at my child until she gets me a glass of water, I'm just going to go ahead and grab one. And please feel free. This is a great time to open your mics and introduce yourselves before we start, because when we do start, we will be giving a hard mute so that we're able to help control some of the background noise. So give us about a minute and a half, and we're going to be in action. And I'll let my stand-in do the work.
If you're not from Chicago, then you may not understand the Lori Lightfoot joke, but people are, because she's being really badass about social distancing, people have stand-up Lori Lightfoot, cutouts everywhere in their refrigerator. Anywhere you shouldn't be, there's Lori. Chicagoans, we don't follow rules, man. We do what we want.
Hi, I'm Ginger. I'm from Danceworks, Chicago. There are 2 Lori Lightfoot cutouts staring at me from across the street from different people's apartments. So
It's hysterical.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Big sister.
Yeah.
Little big sister, I guess.
Yeah. She's my size. Yeah. Hey, Elizabeth, good to see your face, lady.
Hey, it's good to see you guys too. I'm having a crazy morning, but I thought I'd check in finally and say hello. I'm excited to hear and see the material, but just wanted to say hey.
Hey, girl. Hey. And Jocelyn, it's lovely to see you as well. And we're going to start in about like a minute and a half. For those of you that are able to turn on your videos, we'd certainly appreciate it. Even if your hair is not cute and you didn't do your makeup and you don't have your diva light ring and all of the things that could possibly go wrong, we'll even take semi eyebrows. Whatever you've got to offer, we'll take it this morning. And we've got somebody in that was our ministry.
Yes, that's me.
Oh, perfect. All right. Can I ask you a huge favor? If you hover over your own video, there's 3 little dots, and if you scroll to the bottom, it says rename. Can you just pop your name in there so that when we do chat with you, we can identify you? Rena, thank you so much. I appreciate it. And good morning to Stephanie and Jacqueline and Antonia. And I brutalized that, and I apologize. I should be flogged. And Teresa O'Sullivan, it's so nice to see you. Hopefully we get to see your face as well. Just out of curiosity, and as we're getting ready to start, I would love to hear from you guys. This was when we did the poll of our attendees for our Small Business Survivalist series. This was resoundingly the one that hit the top of the charts. What are some of the things that you're finding to be a really big challenge right now? And this is you can unmute yourselves and just holler it out there. Y'all are here for a reason. I know you are. I know you showed up for a reason.
This is Katie. I'll say something I have been reflecting on, especially this past week, is I have things to do, but I'm normally someone who travels a lot and has a lot of events I have to go to, and that kind of helps me create structure for the downtime because I know I have a limited amount to get it done. And I'm not doing events as much as I was a few weeks ago, and I have lots of things I should be doing, but the lack of structure has really made it hard to kind of stay motivated and stay on track. And I feel like every week I'm giving myself permission to do less. And maybe that's okay, because maybe I'll be going back to my crazy hectic life in a few months. But yeah, that's something as a business owner, you definitely want to be taking advantage of the opportunity and time that you have. And it's been very difficult to keep that going.
Yeah, I absolutely resonate with that. Is it anybody else experiencing that particular phenomenon? Yeah. And it's funny because we seem to be vacillating between so slap busy that we can't see straight to I have time. Am I actually allowed to take a nap? Or like what? What is the best use of this? I haven't been able to take a nap in the past 10 years. What do we do? So guys, just to do a little housekeeping as we go in, we are going to have you guys on mute just to help us with sound and that kind of thing. If you have a question, I encourage you to pop it into the chat. We will be making sure that we are monitoring that. And after Debbie speaks, there's going to be about 5 minutes for a Q&A. And then I'm going to give you some additional tips and tools. And then we'll open it up to just another opportunity for about 5 minutes to get some questions answered. And after the events, which if you've been here more than once, by about noon, you're going to get an email that has just a recap, an invitation to the next upcoming event, which is going to be really exciting as well. I can't wait to tell you about it. And access to the recording and all of the documentation and notes that you're going to receive today so that you can take what we've gone over and apply it and reach out to us if you need additional support in where we're going. Does that sound like a good deal? Yeah. Again, I highly encourage you to use the reaction button, especially when we can't see faces. For those of us that are speaking and trying to emotionally connect with you through our virtual world, it really helps us to just to know that we're hitting some good notes and that we haven't gone off the deep end in whatever random way we all happen to do that. But without further ado, we're here to make the best use of our time. Yes, no? So let's dive in and get going. And I'm excited about the person that I am about to introduce for a multitude of reasons. But one of them is she and I have been dying to do an event together for like a year, and we were just about to do this incredible event that I'm not even going to tease it right now because it is filled with so much badassery that I want it to be a surprise when it comes. But we decided to take the moment to share the blessing of being able to work together and pair up on what to me is one of the most critical components of how we're all going to make it through this change. Because I don't know about you guys, Katie, you had mentioned structure. I've been a planner and a goal setter for eons, and I know my structure is to the point of if I don't get home by 6:30 and I'm going to give you my dirty little secret, turn on TMZ and have a glass of wine while I cook, like my day is not done. I don't reset. I have to have the plan, and the plan has to just have those things, and hopefully the meal turns out great, and then my brain can shut off and I can actually go to bed and wake up and start the cycle all over. Yeah, that cycle got blown to crap, although TMZ is still very good. So there's a lot of things that we want to talk about today that are going to kind of integrate into not only the foundations of where we need to be emotionally to understand what time management looks like now, but then really where we need to be for the implementation of it, because it's got to have a structure that can be followed and wins that we can count along the way. So without further ado, I am so incredibly pleased to introduce you to the fireball that is Debbie Pickus. I've known of Debbie for, it's got to be close to 15 to 20 years. And her career and her drive have been something that if you ask anybody in the Chicagoland networking community, they know the passion and the energetic feel of Debbie. You know, when she walks in a room, you know that she brings this 20 years of experience with fitness and martial arts and mind-body connection and just absolute plugged in to the power source energy into every room she walks into. It's absolute magic. And really what Debbie does is she works with groups to harness the power of who they are, to create confidence, to build energy, and to build success in their business and their personal lives. She has this ability to really create powerful mindsets that are the foundation for getting everything else done. And that power of the decision mindset work that she does, combined with the martial arts and the self-defense training and just the incredible background that she has, packs such a punch when it comes to getting you back online and back into your purpose, that it is just the absolute best way that I could imagine starting a conversation like this. So please help me welcome the demure, Miss Debbie Pickus.
Wow. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate I feel like I should have like like my boxing gloves in here, you know, as like a tool. Thank you for that introduction, Marie. And yes, it's delightful that we were finally able to do this. I so appreciate it. And thank you all for being here. I see a lot of beautiful faces. Some of them are posed and some are actually moving, but you all look amazing today. So thanks for coming. God, I love when people introduce me like that, because then I'm like, wow, I'm pretty awesome. I better live up to that. So I'm going to ask you some questions first, and then I'm going to talk to you just a little bit around mindset and like how our mind works and how our beliefs actually either play into our success or potentially our non-success, or, you know, whatever you want to call it. But the first question I want to ask you is, does it feel like there's a street fight happening in your head right about now? Not if you agree. Yeah. And, you know, sometimes that street fight probably was happening before this, but now it's like, you know, coming at you from all angles. Do you remember back, you know, 4 months ago when 2020 was going to be like the best year ever? Yeah, I kind of remember that too. I was actually on track to have my best year in business. This company, Team Fireball, I just had my 5-year anniversary actually, and I was on track to have the best year yet. There was a conference I went to in March, but right before that all happened, I had live speaking events, which is how I get most of my clients. I had live training, I had repeat clients, I had new clients, I had all sorts of things happening. And, you know, now I'm doing some virtual speaking, which is great. But you know, you can probably tell, like I'm sitting right now and it's kind of killing me to sit, because I'm usually like working a room, right? I like to go up to people. I like to get up to their seats and talk to them. I'm not like a sit down, you know, during a talk kind of person. So I was really on track, you know, financially and with goals, but I was also mentally like just dialed in. I mean, seriously fired up. Okay. That's the name of I got all my fire behind me, right? So fired up, and bam, what happened? We hit a brick wall called COVID-19, right? And everybody I've talked to has felt the same way. Like, it's just, you know, even though we saw it coming and it rolled. I mean, all of a sudden people were like, oh my God, what the hell am I going to do? You know, the new buzzword, pivot, right? Everybody's pivoting. How do I pivot my business? How do I do this? How do I do that? All of a sudden we're all digital. You know, it's an emotional roller coaster, right? It is, if you are from Chicago, you will know that our emotions are very similar to the Chicago weather. 1 minute it's one way, and 2 minutes later it's something else. And we're all dealing with stress, anxiety, fear, overwhelm, and uncertainty because we're not exactly sure when it's going to come back, what it's going to look like when it comes back. How do we deal with it? And so, typically I'll do like an hour workshop around some of this that extends it out longer, but I want to give you just some of the basics today so that you've got some tools to figure out, like, what the hell is going on, right? So just the one thing I want you to know, though, is that your beliefs are like directly related to the result that you get. Okay. There's no way you can believe one thing and then get like a completely different result that's not in alignment with your beliefs. We're going to do just a little exercise around that in just a few minutes, but I want you to really get that. Just a brief discussion about neuroscience. I've got some notes here just so I don't forget anything, but when we're born, we have 100 billion neurons, but we only have 25 billion synaptic connections. From the time we're born to about 5 or 6 is when we build out that neural network, and it's based on experience. Our brain records all the experiences. I'm getting nods from Kate. Thank you. She's like, yes. I'm not a neuroscientist, by the way. She might be. I'm so not. But what happens is everything we record, everything that's happening, all the experiences, what we hear, what we see, what we think, or not what we think, what we eat, what we believe, what we experience, all becomes part of that neural network. And depending on the quality of the experiences, we attach a meaning to it. So I've got a great coach. Actually, Rachel works with the same coach I do. He's amazing. And he gives an example of the first time you encounter a dog. If the dog is friendly and nice and wonderful, you're going to be like, oh, this is really cool. Dogs are friendly. And then the next time you see a dog, even though it's a different dog, there's a dog, looks the same, friendly. If the first time you experience a dog, you experience an attack, or the dog growls at you or does something scary, you are going to record all that. And then basically the next time you see another dog, you're going to just assume you're going to see the evidence to support what you believe, which is that dogs are scary. So as we grow, as we learn, we're again associating these meanings and attaching these meanings to things, and those are what becomes our beliefs. The interesting part about this is our beliefs, we find evidence to support our beliefs always, right? You've heard the expression, you'll see what you believe, right? We filter out a lot of other things because there's too much incoming and we can't possibly do it. So we find the evidence to support our beliefs. Where that becomes a problem is that if you've got a belief that's limiting, you are always going to find the evidence to support that belief. So I'm going to do an exercise with you. I want to briefly talk, Marie, when she introduced me, mentioned, but I do work with individual professionals, but also with teams on getting their mindset in the right place. Because as she mentioned, we're going to talk about goals a little bit today. A lot of people had very specific goals that they set for this year. And then, the COVID brick wall came in. So the question is, do you continue to like fire against those goals and like, damn the torpedoes, I'm hitting these goals no matter what? Or do you maybe realign those goals and maybe make a decision that it's really okay if I don't hit all those goals, right now? Things may look different. Maybe this is a rebuilding year. I don't know. You're going to have to decide for yourself. But I want to talk about the mindset behind it all. Because there's only 2 states of being. There's suffering and primal states. There's beautiful and powerful states. Now I'm using both those words because, different people believe in different things. Suffering states look like stress, anxiety, overwhelm, fear, anxiety, anger, resentment, jealousy, comparison, bitterness, boredom, comparison, all those things. I'm probably repeating things, but they feel crappy. They feel crappy. So your emotional guidance system can tell you when you are in a crappy, we all know when we're feeling crap, right? It's like, oh, I'm sad, I'm upset. And believe me, from moment to moment right now, you could be feeling all those things. I read somebody's post earlier. It's like the lottery of emotions. You have no idea what you're going to get, right? Beautiful and powerful states are joy, success, vitality, energy, positivity, peace, joy, happiness, love, contribution, all the things that make us feel good. The thing is, when we're in those suffering states, the only cause of it is our thinking. It's not the experience. The experience is the experience, right? It's what we make it mean. It's what we have attached to it. It's the thoughts around that experience. That's what can mess us up and send us into that state of suffering. So I'm going to attempt to share my screen here. We'll see if this works. That's not it. Here it is. Yay. Woo. We had to practice this earlier because I might be able to like move a room and get people excited that way, but don't ask me to do anything technical. It's like, what? I don't know how. Okay.
Guys, just a heads up, that worksheet is, we popped the link into the drive. So you can either follow that link or you're going to need to, actually, Michelle, can you please file upload into the drive? That link is hard to grab out of the chat box, but we want to make sure everybody's got a copy of that.
Yeah. Perfect. Thank you.
You're
So this is what we call the 5 primary drivers. This is, you'll see at the bottom, it says property of David Bayer. That's my coach. But I mean, this work is so fascinating and I'm certified to use it, just so you know. But you'll see, this is a function of the human operating system. This is how our brain works. So we've got a belief, and that belief will create our thoughts. All the thoughts that we have in life are related back to some belief. Okay, so it all goes back to that belief. From that thought will produce a feeling. And I'm going to give you some examples of how this works. And then I'm going to ask you guys to do some stuff on your own too. But that thought will create a feeling. Now, depending on the quality of the thoughts, it's going to depend on the quality of the feeling, right? If we're feeling good thoughts about things, then the feeling is probably satisfaction, productivity, energy, positivity, all those things, right? If the thought is something that's like, a limiting belief or a cruddy thought, a disempowering thought, the feeling is probably going to be one of those suffering states, right? The feeling then produces or moves us into action. The quality of the action is related to the quality of the feeling and the thought and the belief. So sometimes that action is inaction, right? Because we might have a feeling of fear. It's not going to go well. I don't know what to do. Those are more the thoughts, but we might feel stuck. We might feel sad. We might feel lost. Okay. So we may not act at all. And then what happens? Well, the quality of our actions produces the results that we get. And if we're not doing right action, if we're not doing powerful action, if we're not doing productive action, our results are going to reflect that. Then what happens is we look at those results and it goes back to our belief. I knew it wasn't going to work, right? If the belief is something like, I knew it wasn't going to work anyway, of course, the results are, it didn't work. Quick example about that. If you've got a belief that money's hard to make, it was one of my problems early on. And the thoughts are, I don't know how to do it. I'm not good at it. It's, nobody's going to buy from me. I don't know why I should even bother. Then the feelings are, well, I'm dejected. I'm not smart enough. I'm not good enough. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm never going to be able to make money. I feel like crap. Then the actions are, I'm not going to call anybody because I'm afraid to call them because they're probably not going to buy anyway. So why would I do it? So I don't, that's leaning back. I just don't make the calls, right? Well, what do you think the results are? The results are crappy results. And then it goes back to the belief of money's hard to make. So that's the vicious cycle that we put ourselves on. And so if there's a place in your life where there's a pattern, and it doesn't have to be business, guys. I mean, this is anything. This is relationships. This is your health and fitness. This is, how you are with money. This is, whatever it is, friendships, relationships, social, you name it, spirituality, any place where you are finding yourselves continually ending up back at this place where you're like, whoa, why am I back at this place again? I said I wanted this thing over here, but you end up back where you were. It's because you are programmed with that belief And you don't even understand. Sometimes it's much easier to say this, but it's, you know, you have to dig in. When I work with people, we dig in, we get way underneath because we uncover things we never thought were there. I spoke with a client yesterday who was applying for she's going back into the workforce and she wants to work for a corporate company. And she's like, I'm tanking these interviews. I don't know what to do. Like, I just keep tanking these interviews. Well, we talked for a while and I've said, do you really want to go back to work? Like, maybe you just don't want to go back to work and you're tanking the interview. She's like, oh my God. Like, that totally got her. She thought she wanted to go back to work, but really she didn't. So subconsciously she was making sure it happened. So I'm going to actually give you guys, and Maria, I know you're keeping track of time here. I'm not. So I'm going to give you guys a chance to do this. The next page of this, oh, it's not doing it for me. But do you have the second page, Marie? Because for some reason, okay, perfect. So you should have a space to write where it's written out beliefs, thoughts, feelings, actions, results, and back to beliefs. And I'm going to ask you, and you know, this is interactive. So I would love if somebody wants to chime in and get like, you know, a couple minutes of laser coaching around this. This would be great. Please pick an area of your life, and you don't have to start with the belief. It's a little difficult to start with the belief. Sometimes we usually like have to reverse engineer that. But let's pick an area of your life where you, and I know Marie's going to talk about goals. It could be about that, but let's, you know, it can be about goals. If you had a goal this year and you're absolutely not going to get it, what's your belief around that? If your belief is, I have to get that goal no matter what, or I suck as a human being, then, you know, you're going to beat yourself up. If your belief is right now things are crazy and, you know, for like Marie, I've got a lot of time. I can't do all the exact things I used to do. I can build my foundations. It's okay if I take a nap. Then, you know, it's okay, right? So for yourself, when's a time recently where you felt cruddy? You physically, like you might have felt a physical thing, but emotionally you felt sad, you felt scared, you felt frustrated. Can you write down when that time was? I want you to write down the thing you were feeling. I can't tell if anybody's doing this, so you're all looking at me. So clearly you're not writing anything down.
So Debbie, do me a favor, because I'm looking at the pieces that I have, and the one that has the space for writing in it.
Yeah.
It might be a little difficult for
read.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
I can explain it out.
Yeah, if you could, that would be really, really helpful.
For sure. So here's what you're going to do on a piece of paper. Write beliefs, thoughts, feelings, actions, results. And you guys are going to get some access. I think I've given you access to this as well. So, you know, you can do it after the fact. But I want you to think of a place right now in your business where things are not working, and what's the thought behind it? Like I said to you, you know, I had the belief that money's hard to make. Like, let me give you an example, because I just did a training right before this. Nobody's buying right now. Nobody's buying right now. Okay. Well, that feels kind of crappy. Nobody's buying right now. Therefore, I'm not going to be able to make any money. Chances are I'm going to like not be able to pay my rent or my mortgage. I'm going to be living under a bridge soon. Like, that's where we go, right? We immediately go from like, I can't pay my rent this month to I'm going to be living under a bridge tomorrow. So if the thought is if the thought is nobody's buying right now and my life is going to be over and I'm not, you know, I'm going to be living on the street, what does that feel like? Well, I can tell you, it feels crappy. It feels like fear. It gives you anxiety. It makes you feel overwhelmed. It makes you feel stressed out. It makes you feel scared. So then the actions are, you might reach out to some people, but maybe it's timid. Maybe you feel like you're bothering them. And so you reach out to them and you're just like, they're not going to buy anyway, but I'm going to talk to them. But really, is your heart in the sale? Is your heart in the reach out? Even if you're just reaching out to see how they're doing, you've got like, there's no energy in it, because you've got a belief maybe that they're not going to buy. You might have a belief that you're bothering them. I mean, I remember just a few weeks ago, I was on a virtual dinner party thing, and people were like, well, it's not right to reach out to people right now. Like, people are getting laid off. I shouldn't reach out to people. I'm like, no, this is exactly when people need you.
Yeah.
Okay. This is exactly when people need you. They might not buy the whole, however much your regular package is, or they might not buy, but even if you're just reaching out of like, I care about you, I just want to make sure you're okay, I've got some amazing new things. If maybe they're beneficial to you, maybe they're not, but I thought I would share with you. Not sharing is selfish. Not sharing is keeping the amazing gifts that you have to offer to yourself. You put it out there. Don't be attached to the outcome, but go in it like with a full force of energy behind it. Like, I'm here to serve you. This is what I have that could serve you and your business and your family right now. I don't know what anybody in here does for a living. It's not about that. Okay. But if you go into things with as a service, you are giving them something that they need. So basically, if we go backwards, actions, I take half-assed action because I feel like I shouldn't be reaching out to people because I'm afraid I'm going to bother them. Well, what kind of results do you think you're going to get? And then we're going to get back up to that belief of nobody's buying right now. I shouldn't be reaching out. Somebody actually said something. It feels sleazy for me to sell to people right now. So if you've got a belief that sales is a bad thing, sales is trying to force somebody to do something that they don't want to do, well, of course, you're gonna just continue to be on this loop and you're gonna struggle. So how do we flip the switch on that? We have to start with the belief. Remember, I was talking about neuroscience and where these beliefs come from. Well, quite frankly, they're arbitrary decisions that we made at an early time. Just another quick story. My coach tells a story of like, he's working on a school project when he's a young boy, and his dad walks in and says, hey, let me show you a better way to do that. He took it to mean that he couldn't do it right. He took that across every lens of every single thing he did through his life. I can't do it right. I'm not doing it right. So if you created a belief of you don't know how, or you created a belief that sales are bad, or you've got some belief system that maybe you heard from your family or something early on, we've got to flip the switch on that. So how do we make a new decision about sales being bad? Sales is a gift. Sales is being of service. Sales is offering something amazing that I know how to do to somebody that doesn't know how to do it. Collaboration. Look at Marie reached out to me last week. She's like, hey, do you want to be on this thing? You're like, let's just do this. Like, she was tired of waiting till we could do something in person. So it's like, she's offering me a gift, an opportunity to speak to all of you. You have a gift. You have something valuable to share. And it doesn't always have to be about sales. You could just share something of value right now to build the community and build the relationship while we're in this time. But if you've got a belief of nobody's buying right now, you're not going to reach out to anybody at all. So once you flip the switch on, I've got a gift. I'm going to share this gift with my community. Then the thought is, I'm really excited. I'm doing something of contribution. I'm offering something wonderful. I'm sharing my gifts with people, and they can accept the gift or not, but I have this to offer. How does that feel? Well, the energy behind that is amazing, right? It's like, I'm being of service. I'm offering something amazing to people. If somebody buys it, or have you ever done something like that? And somebody turns around and they're like, oh my God, you just saved my life. Thank you so much. Like, I have been needing this, and I was thinking, like, what was I going to do? And you showed up. Oh, you could freaking save somebody right now. That feels amazing. And then the actions are, well, then you're like, oh, I want to call more people now because look how well that went, right? And then the results are, you're building your network, you're building your sales, you're building your funnel, you're building whatever you're building, right? But you're doing it. Then you get back up to that top belief, I'm being of service. So does it make sense how the circle works? Depending on the quality of that belief will depend on your results.
Yeah, I love that. And so some of the questions that we're hearing is that, and we talked about this last, not last week, but this is we've had a lot of these so far. So they're all starting some blends together as time no longer has meaning. The market has changed so dramatically that people feel like extra noise in a time that's already noisy.
Yep.
And it's almost like we're taking and imposing our experience on someone else,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to checking in to see what their experience actually is.
Yes.
And so one of my questions is, if you have a belief that keeps cycling, how do you check in and see if that belief is valid?
How does it make you feel when you have that belief? So that emotional guidance system. A lot of times we think that if somebody says something to us and it strikes a chord, that that it's true.
Yeah.
And what's actually true is that they have struck the chord of a limiting belief. That's what's true. So, you know, if somebody says to me, I mean, I'm a disorganized person, right? I mean, I'm really, you know, this is all MacGyvered right here, that you're seeing the good stuff, right? And every once in a while, my kids will be like, oh yeah, you're a mess, or you're this, you're that. And it kind of strikes a chord with me, right? Now, it is true that I'm disorganized, but I have made that mean that I'm a failure. I have made that mean that I'm a complete mess. I've made that mean something about me that doesn't feel very good. Really, maybe it's just not that important to me. Or maybe I just never learned how to do it and I could learn how to do it. Or maybe I could hire somebody. So when you feel that like emotion that doesn't feel very good, it means that there's a limiting belief that's not true. And what we do is we dial back and figure out what's under that made you feel that way. And then we try and do that thing where we flip the switch to make a new decision. Hopefully that answered that question.
Yeah, that was great. And I think we all kind of resonate with, we're at a time when our beliefs are being challenged.
Right.
And what was so critically important 2 months ago doesn't have the gravitas now to move us or possibly move others.
Right.
So thank you so much. And guys, I highly encourage you. Debbie has made a very nice offer that we'll share with you at the end. If you are coming up on those limiting beliefs, and if this is a very hard practice to do in a vacuum, it is really something that you want to have a partner in. So keep that radar up, keep that emotional radar up of, am I telling myself the truth, or am I telling myself what I think is true? Right? And use that as a trigger to reach out to a strategic partner, reach out to one of us, talk through it, because it's going to provide you with such a step forward, as opposed to 2 hours of spinning that we could have been able to walk you through in just a couple of minutes. But I know that I have my business girlfriends that I call out to, that like, they know if they get a business girlfriend text from me, that like, if they can get back to me in an hour, I need to scream it out so that I can get back to whatever level of sanity I possessed before. And it is one of the biggest blessings that I've found in my business. And so I want to walk you into a little bit of a more strategic goal wrapping for how we're going to take those beliefs and anchor them into some action. So give me a moment as I go into my presentation mode. Just out of curiosity, how many of you have had the opportunity to actually go back and reassess your goals since all of this has happened? Kind of, sort of, meh. It's hard. Those of us that are used to setting and obtaining goals do it like it's second nature, right? Like we have that drive, that dominant personality type that says, I will continue and persevere no matter what. Well, here's the thing, the no matter what has changed dramatically. So I want to go through some things that are going to be very, very activity focused for where we want to go. Because if you have a goal that was written out beautifully on January 1st and put in your special goal place and not revisited, you don't have goals. You have some really big wishes that you were hoping would happen in the next 1 to 5 years. So I want to talk about a couple of theories that are near and dear to my heart, because I've been using this system since I was a executive assistant at a financial consulting firm when I was 19 years old. And they pushed me through Franklin Covey training as I was, of course, a 19-year-old pretending to be a grown-up running 4 or 5 executives' calendars and such. And they really taught me about how to connect with what the bigger purpose is, so that the smaller pieces that need to be accomplished can actually get the inertia they need. And I'm also going to get you addicted to chemicals, so hang with me. So I don't know about you guys, but I'm a huge Ben Franklin fan. Not because he is the steaming pot of sexiness that we see in the lower left corner of our screens, but because he embraced his weird duckiness in such a fantastic way that he ended up producing more activity in his lifetime than most people do in 2 or 3 lifetimes. And he was absolutely a time management and goal setting ninja. He kept a book in his pocket that he would write down step by step what he was going to be doing every day, from his bathroom breaks to, and trust me, he had to go to that house, so that was a planned trip, to what friends and family he was going to make time to connect with that day. And every sector of his life had a goal and had a plan, and he moved it forward. And he also created time and space for creativity and innovation. And that's really hard to do. For those of you that are creative in nature, goal setting can sometimes feel pretty elusive. We can talk about financial goals and that kind of thing, but when you're out there selling yourself, or you're out there having to really force time to be creative, it can create a very stressful environment and can almost strip you of your ability to engage. And that's not where any of us need to be right now. So there has to be a start. And I put both the Ben Franklin pyramid and Debbie's belief system slide in here, because I think these are 2 very focused ways to be able to really understand what your values and beliefs are, and then be able to put your goals on top of those. Because without that foundation, without knowing who you are and what you believe, you're putting your goals on sand as opposed to a surface that can be built upon. And that's not going to serve you. When we go into next week's conversation, we're going to talk a lot more about the emotion around time and the loss of structure, and how to time manage yourself into your goals so that you are continuously moving it forward. But right now, we need to be in that reevaluation phase, because things have changed, right? What we believed has been shaken, because everything about our lives has changed. And if it hasn't been shaken for you, you should take a little moment to reconsider, because if you're walking through life and thinking everything is going to turn out exactly the same, you're going to be in for a very, very tough year. We talked about some of the values that Debbie was sharing, and I gave you some additional ones here to kind of start to build off of. But when we talk about identifying those values, I want to give you a space to elaborate on those things in a way that is going to speak to, and we being as inclusive as possible. Hang with me as I say the universe or the laws of attraction, because a lot of times when we're looking at our goals, we set goals that are talking about the future. We set our values that are talking, sometimes our values are aspirational, right? Like, I want to have more authenticity in my communication with my clientele. Great. What does that mean? What does that actually mean to anybody else? And so when we take that first step of identifying your values, and I would highly recommend that you take and look at 5 of them. and say, okay, if one of my values is humor, which those of you that know me, you know that I have an incredible smartass streak that I include in my superpowers. And I fully embrace and love that part of myself. But if somebody was going to check in on me and see if I was actually embracing humor, what would that look like? Right? And so the first thing that I'm going to encourage you to do as part of your practice is to go through your values and create a clarifying statement. If humor is something that you value, give it a active, present tense, clarifying statement. I consistently use humor to bring people together. I try not to be dirty, but I don't hold back. Sometimes I'm a little dirty. I don't always win that war. And I use gifts as part of how I communicate with my internal staff, my clients, and the world at large, because I know it's going to make people smile. That's a much different emotional context than I like to be funny, right? Once we've got some identification of those values, make sure that it is happening now and not in the future. If you're talking about, I am going to be more organized in my life, what that says to your subconscious is that the going is the goal, not the being. Does that resonate with anybody? I'm going to get the virtual snaps. We don't want to be in a constant state of pursuing a goal, right? If you have goals that are written out, I want to ask you to go back through them and put them in that active present tense. And if you can put an ing word in the first sentence, you're going to be a energetic rock star on this. Because if you are looking at it as, I am celebrating the organization that I have applied to my personal and professional life as I stand in my gift wrap room that is so beautifully organized that I want to make a Pinterest page about it, right? Keep that love and that energy in that space so that subconsciously you know what's happening. This is also a really good time for us to reassess our roles, because how many of you became instant homeschool teachers? Who the was prepared for that, right? Like, what left field bullshit is like, oh, by the way, you're going to learn to need Common Core math, then learn how to use all of the 4 different things that they're sending to you for your child to check in on. Oh, and then if you've got multiple children, let's make sure each of them have their own thing. And then 60 minutes of active physical activity. And are you kidding me? Stop. So when I stopped and looked back at my roles, and I will tell you now that I am blessed. My mom has been here with me. She got unfortunately quarantined in a 2-bedroom apartment with me and my daughter, and me running the business from here. And she's been a great help. But when I looked back and said, okay, if I'm reassessing my goals, I'd better take a look at the roles that I have to play now and how those have changed. Because when we're looking at the new goals, you've got to identify what roles you're playing. And those are part of your community, spouse or partner, parent, child. How are we taking care of our parents? If you own a business, welcome to some additional hats. Owner, biz dev, accounting. Like, what are all of those things that you have to have an eye on in order to continue to move forward? And those roles that we're playing is where we root our goals. Because if we know what our values are, we get a clear understanding of how we want to show up in each of the roles that we play. And we can then reassess the goals that are associated with that role through what our beliefs are, what our values are, what's needed from us at this point, and what's happening in the community at large. And then you got to get smart, guys. For those of you that have never heard about SMART goals, they are one of the sexiest things on earth. That's a personal opinion. You may share it, you may not, but it's one of my love languages. And what may have been a SMART goal when you started, when we hit things like, yes, it may be specific. And when I say specific, my darlings, I want you to be specific. If you want to lose 15 pounds, it's not 15 pounds. I want to weigh 112 pounds at 5:30 p.m. on December 31st and have a dance party in my kitchen celebrating my tiny butter bean of a butt. Right? Get specific so that if someone were to look in on you and say, did they achieve? There's no ambiguity there. They know exactly how to measure that. They may not be able to measure the loss of 15 pounds if they didn't know where you started, right? Is it measurable? If you have a goal that is ambiguous, like, I've worked with a lot of husband and wife couples, and I always hear, well, I would like to have more intimacy with my partner outside of the business. Cool. Becky, what does that look like? Like, come on. And this, by the way, this is never a dude goal, by the way. Karen, what does more intimacy look like? Is it 4 dates a month with your husband or partner? Is it waking up and kissing that beautiful, like what does it look like? What things can we check off that we know we've gotten there? But right now, is it attainable? Is it still something that I can get my arms around? Or am I not being realistic in what it is that I had intended? And I'm going to set myself up for constant failure. Because if we set ourselves up for constant failure in this phase, you are going to get farther away from your goals than you will ever get closer. Creating a kind of a vortex or a spin of accomplishing is really where you're going to start to be able to pick up steam. So once you've gone through your SMART filter, the next thing I'm going to ask is that you chunk things down and put them into a timeline. So, and I apologize. I realized I didn't change the 2018 up there. But if I'm looking to create these kinds of results within my business, that I want to be responsible for $1 million in sales by X and X time, don't put the $1 million as the only marker that you have for accomplishment. Break it down into chunks so that you have the opportunity to go in, and that's not a check mark, ladies and gentlemen. That's a V for victory. Every one of those is a little victory that happens. And if you've got pieces that are a little bigger that you know you need to be able to track the little pieces that come in, give yourself a space for tracking. And guys, this is not hard. This is a spreadsheet. Franklin Covey's got a great system for it. But if you've got that big goal and we now know, like, okay, this is aligned with who I am and this is how I'm going to get there, making sure that you've got pieces that you can pull in on a monthly basis because you know where you need to be this month to attain that yearly goal is going to start to expedite that process even more. Because when you have this plan, and this is my secret that I want to share with you guys, when you have this kind of plan and you're spending your time in your time matrix, only dealing with the things that are truly important, what's going to happen is you're going to start to get addicted. And I'm going to send this to you so you can watch this video later. He's really funny, but he'll help you understand some of the breakdowns. We start getting addicted to the accomplishment that's there, right? That check mark, that moving things forward will actually create a specific release of chemicals in your brain that it will start to crave. And your subconscious mind will start working to get you to those goals faster and faster. And so when we go into our time management section next week, we're going to talk about how to actually stack that so that you're prioritizing correctly and getting things done. And I know I've got just a couple minutes, but I want to share a story with you that just tells you why I'm so committed to this style of goal setting and accomplishment. So many of you, those of you that have heard my story know that my life partner and I created this business that we'd been dreaming of for 10 years. And 7 months after we started, he passed away suddenly, no notice. And so here I was we'd just sunk everything into the business. We had set all these big goals, and it's just me and my daughter now, and everything has changed. And that was in February of 2017. When I went back to my goals at the end of that year, I had actually accomplished every goal we set together at the timeline that we had set it to, simply by the fact that my subconscious knew where I was supposed to go. And it took me there even when I wasn't strong enough to carry myself. That is why creating these goals and aligning those pieces for yourself is so valuable. It will carry you through when everything changes, because it will. So you know that we always end on time, and I see that the chat is kind of filling up. Are there any questions that you, as we kind of open it up to close, that anybody wanted to grab real quick? And no is an okay answer. All right, guys. So you know that after this meeting, you're going to get your follow-up email with the recordings and all of those great pieces. I also want you to know that next week we're going to be going into time management. And I'm playing with the title. I was going to call it Time Management When Your Kids Are Assholes and at Home All the Time, but they said that wasn't the best title for it. But we're going to be going into time management, and I have a partner that is going to be so incredibly powerful for this. She is a grief, she's a life coach and a professional coach, but she also works with grief and the body connection. And we're going to start by talking about the impact of loss. And we've all experienced loss. There is grief that is attached to that in its own way as we're going through this transition. And then how to take and understand that change in the emotional context of how we see time through that filter of embracing where we're at, and then putting time management and prioritization components around it so that you can move forward succinctly, keep achieving, keep celebrating, and keep moving forward, because the world needs you. And you not being there is not going to serve anyone. So thank you all for being here. Please make sure that you sign up for the next event early, because things tend to get crazy on those fast. And I know Debbie is thanking everyone for joining, but I also want to just reiterate that and say thank you so much, not only for the time that you spend with us, but for the love that you guys share back and the energy that you put back into everybody else's lives that are on these calls. Thank you so much, and you'll be getting your email soon. All right, bye guys.